Another live video today together with my brother Guido Stutemon, talking about how to tap into your intuition and accept your current state. All about like how to reconnect with your body again and what is maybe standing in the way of actually being able to connect and reconnect with your body. What is preventing you to actually do that? So I'm gonna wait a little minute for some people to be able to tune in to you. And Richard, already thank you for tuning in. I'm obviously gonna wait a little bit for Guido to show up, and I will invite him quickly. So just give us a minute, grab yourself a tea, some water, whatever you like, and relax for a little bit. And we will get started in all right. Hope everyone is having a good day so far. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Drop it down below in the comment section. And there is Ben himself.
No, hey. Yes.
Yo, Guido. How you doing, man?
Yo. Yeah, very good, man. Very good. It's so funny. Like, literally at the moment that I wanted to come on, like a leaf blower here, very close, started, like 30 meters. And I realized, like, okay, I have to come a little bit further away from that noise. Otherwise, I'm like fully on in the noise. So I was like, I changed place real quick. But here I am. Do you hear me well?
I hear you perfectly, man. You have an amazing view over there.
Yeah, that's no painting, by the way. It looks like it, but it is real.
It's almost
I'll
like
just
a
step
Bob
out of
Ross,
the way
right?
for a second. And
Wow. Well, I don't have lush green jungle, but I do hope that my little Christmas decoration here brings some inspiration and joy to this to this little live video today as well.
It's amazing. You have a plant, you know. Here's green. You have a plant, you know, and that way we're aligning.
Exactly. So I was just giving a quick introduction into this video, tapping into your intuition and accepting your current state. Basically, like the underlining theme is like reconnecting with your body, basically, right? Like that's what we will be talking about. But before we dive into it, I think it's going to be interesting to give people a little bit of a background into who you are, who I am, for the people that don't know us, and also maybe a little bit about like how we actually know each other and what our connection is before we dive into today's topic.
Yes, yeah, very good idea. Very good idea. So, shall I start?
Yeah, perfect, man.
I'm Guido, 29 years old, living in Netherlands. This is obviously not the Netherlands. I'm now in Costa Rica. I was visiting a couple different friends in Central America, and I had the possibility to do so because I'm a trainer. I work in a holistic way with people on the level of healing, and that goes beyond only the body. But I started my journey 100% with the body in the gym, working there, and I realized that so many things what are happening in the gym are because of the image that people have of themselves, and it always starts with their body, and then it becomes an identification. And I was so obsessed with those identifications that I thought like there must be something more. But every time I started asking, like the gym where I was working, I got the message like, we don't go there, you know, that's too much. And I was like, I have to figure out a way how can I do this? And then I realized, like, I have to start for myself, you know, like, it's so easy, actually, or so difficult, so simple that it's easy, or so difficult that it's simple, you know, like, whatever way you want to look to it. I noticed, like, if I start for myself, then I can do whatever I want, you know, then I can, like, have my own little speedboat, instead of that I'm on a bigger ship, and that someone else decides where I have to go, how hard I have to work, when I have to work. So yeah, that's what I've been doing since 2016, and I love it still. It gives me the possibilities to work with amazing people, and yeah, I'm super grateful for that. And yeah, since 2.5 years, I do also one-on-one sessions on the level of going beyond the pain, exploring the body beyond the pain, and what's the recurring pattern that someone's in, and what has that to do with their pain, emotional blockages, all of that. But I can tell a whole story about it. But that's a brief explanation, I think. So back to you, Master.
Thanks for that introduction, man. Like, it always makes me smile, like not being the only person in a conversation that like can talk for hour, forever, right?
Right?
No, normally it's always me. No, normally it's always me. So I'm happy to have a good partner in crime with this. Well, yeah, for the people that don't know me, I'm Koen. I'm also from the Netherlands. So it's kind of interesting of us doing this conversation in English, but it's just like become so much our second nature, working with so many international people, living not in the Netherlands, or not being in the Netherlands for most of the time. Me especially as well. I have a background in personal training as well. I also started in the gym, just like Hiro did, basically. And I also realized that just physical training was so limited to me, right? Like, people came to me with, like, just how Hiro said, like a lot of issues related to body image, or right, like, or how they saw their body, right? Like the desire to lose weight, the desire to gain muscle. And the interesting thing was that I always noticed that people would come to me and then they had a lot of expectations towards me as a personal trainer, me as a fitness instructor. They had a lot of expectations towards them training in the gym and the results that they would get out of that. And the reality often was that people actually did get very little results. And it had not that much to do with me not being able to provide them a quality service, but much more to do that their results was we did go well beyond just the physical training, right? And
exactly.
I like to talk about mindset, nutrition, their emotional well-being. And that made me realize, like, I'm not really aligned with being a personal trainer, and I need to go beyond that. I have a big passion for nutrition. That's also what basically transformed me more towards an intuitive eating coach, which I'm doing right now. But also there, I really help people to go beyond just the problems that they think are their problems, right? I always say that food, or like whatever the problem is that you face in life, is always just a symptom of what's truly going on beneath the surface.
And it has a deeper message, right?
It always has a deeper message, yeah. So I often say that, like, the way that you like operate in life is like a reflection of how well you love yourself, or the traumas that you have had or haven't healed from yet. And a big part of my life is like emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, and learning how to tap into those deeper layers. So with that being said, to like not go too much beyond that, like, I would also love to ask you quickly, Hiro, like, why this topic today? Like, what does this topic mean to you, and why do you think this is an important thing to talk about?
Yeah, I think it's one of the key elements that gives a dimension to life that goes beyond the rational, because all of us have like expectations from whoever brought us up, if it's our parents or one parent or whatever. They have a certain expectation of us, and if we just do that expectation, like get a study, do a job, and go in that direction, then our life, it becomes very predictable. And that you can almost like see it. I don't know about you, but I have quite some friends, and I look at them and I can almost see like how their next 5-10 years is gonna look like,
Yeah.
And I think that realm of life is perfectly fine if they choose that, but for a lot of people it's actually now the only realm where they're in. So they're losing a little bit of that deeper layer, that sense of mystery, that sense of wonder that life also has to offer. And tapping in your intuition and your body's wisdom also creates moments that you realize, like, whoa, that was a coincidence, that was a synchronicity, and people that are really like aligned with each other. And if like directly can draw out an example that, for example, I know you for 3.5 years, a little bit longer maybe, but I think like about 3.5 years. And it was in Gran Canaria that you were doing a live from the Netherlands, and I was watching from Gran Canaria, and I was doing live from Gran Canaria, and we sort of connected in that way. And then, like, all of a sudden, you we met up in the Netherlands once, and then you decided to pack your stuff, sell your stuff, and move to Gran Canaria. And then you met here all kinds of people that aligned with you in a different way than a lot of people in the Netherlands aligned with you. If I can say it like that, right?
Yeah, totally. I like that little bridge towards like what is actually the connection between us and like how do we get to know each other. And like I like that what you said about like people thinking a lot of things in their lives like are a coincidence. I personally not the kind of type of person that says like, oh, everything is just a coincidence. I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. I like what I like. I doesn't like talking about coincidences. We both know the person that now shows up in this live video as well, Dave Travolta, like someone that we actually met in Gran Canaria as well, and that I then met years later when I moved to Barcelona and ran into each other. Like of all the places that you could work in Barcelona, which is immense, like I ran into this exact person in the office that I started to work in. So like talking about coincidence, right?
Also coincidence that he's watching right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That word coincidence has so many layers on itself. Like an incident, it's like a co-incident, so a co-created incident, because both of you like went from a certain like background in life and they came together, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah. So to talk a little bit about like I like to make a little bridge towards being connected with your body and being disconnected with your body, right? What do you feel are some of the like maybe like the biggest reasons so people can understand that a little bit? Like why are people so disconnected from their body today? So that from there on we can talk a little bit more about like, okay, so how can we start to reconnect more with our body again?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's great. Freya is also here. I think she's from close where you're from, like just over the border in Belgium. Hello. So if everyone is watching, can just say where you're from. It would be cool to have some interactions. Like where are you from? Are you from the Netherlands? Are you from somewhere else? Please type it in the chat. And so disconnected. I think the first and foremost thing is that the way that our the way that we have been brought up, especially like in the West, in the Netherlands, if I talk about myself especially, it's going so much into the head. So a lot of things get analyzed and gets like thought about and overanalyzed, and people forget to look into their world of feelings and into the things that can't be explained. So the first disconnect that I saw is that when I was working at a gym, and I mean I saw this already before, but I really made that connection then that I could actually do something because I wanted to solve that. So what I learned was there's so many people that are going to the gym not because they love it, not because they have a feeling like let's go, I'm looking forward to move today. No, they go because they have the feeling that they must do something, right? And they must do something. And what is it then? They don't know, so they go to the gym because that's what other people do. That's what good. So they go there, and they are literally signing up for a year, and they go there less than 10 times in the whole year. Like a lot of people in the gym, like over 70% of the low-budget gyms, over 70% of the people that sign up are going less than 10 times in a year. So that's not what they started for, but that's because their image. They want to change, and they sign up for change. And then the image says, no, but you are what you are, and you are alive, and there is like this conditioning of like staying where you are because it's safe. It's maybe not so safe if you go in the gym and you meet all kinds of people that are better than you, and you feel discomfort, and that is difficult to bridge. And I think like the first disconnect is that people identify with the situation where they're in, instead of the being, the self, as you said it also in the title, beyond the body that you currently have, because your body is not only who you are. It's yours to own, but it's not the only thing that you are. And I think that identification becomes too much on the body, that I am this body, and not like I have this body as a tool to move where I want. Because there is something, and people that have been conscious about dreaming, they notice there's something beyond. There's something beyond, and that is, nowadays it becomes more and more scientifically proven as well. Of course, quantum physics is quite old, But like the first and foremost problem or situation that's going on is that superficial identification with your persona and with the current physique that you see in the mirror.
Yeah, I really like that. And to add on that, I think what is a big part of that as well is that like nowadays we have all these devices and all of these tools and all of these trainers and coaches telling us, basically fueling those beliefs more and more and more, that we just get more and more disconnected, right? So
Yeah,
we have
exactly.
all of these, and we have all of these apps and watches and all of these devices that basically telling us all of these information. Like Fitbits, and we have Fitness Pal, and we have a chronometer, and we have all these different things, basically giving us information that the body already has, right? Like your body doesn't need to know. Your body knows already how much calories it has, right? It knows if it's hungry or if it's not.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And that is
we
great
use all of these. We use all of these devices that just like further fuels this. This disconnect that is already exists because we, like you mentioned, like we over-identify with the body and we over-identify with the emotions, etc. So I think that that's like the kind of like phase of where we're at in life, is that you see kind of two streams, I would say. You see two streams of people. You see the people that are just going further and further down on that road of being more and more disconnected from nature, how we talked about that, a whole other topic, being disconnected from their self, being disconnected from their body. And then you have people that's, like you said as well, like start to realize like, hey, I feel that there's something more to it. I really cannot pinpoint it yet. I don't know how to explain it, but I do feel that there's more to it. I do feel that this isn't the way for me. And I think that that's a really interesting transition that we're now starting to see, like on a more and more collective scale.
Exactly, exactly. And you pinpointed very specifically, because you are, I mean, you're more than that, of course, but you're an intuitive eating coach. And I don't know, I know no one else like who is that as well. So you're very specific, like in your direction. But I think it's also super important that you're not like the one that is saying to people, this is what you need to eat, this is what you need to do. But like, you're guiding people to listen to their intuition, right? Like, and let me just, one example is that you made the most crazy and amazing salads always, like in Gran Canaria already. And I was always like, how does this guy know so many recipes for salads? But then I realized like, it's not even recipes, it's more like, what do you feel like? And then you mix a nice blend of different things, legumes, salad, greens, and sprouts and seeds, and and you make a nice dressing. And then you come and you make a salad. And I was like, how the fuck does he know that? You know so many things. So can you give
I like to use that.
What is an intuitive eating coach? What is that? I mean, maybe people don't know it all here, but I just want to like.
Yeah, I love that you brought up that example actually, because the interesting thing is I had a conversation with about that with my girlfriend the other day as well. It's like what is difficult in my niche, so to say, right, in my segment where I work in, is that I basically have to convince. I don't think that I'm the person that convinces people. I think that's not the way, but let's say like that, because I think that's a word that people understand. Like basically that I have to convince people to go back to normal, right? Like intuitive eating is actually what we always have been doing, right? That's what you're born with. You start as an intuitive eater, and then there's all of these, like you said, like the belief systems and the disconnect and all of the apps and all of these things that distract us from doing what we're actually supposed to do, right? Well, if I would just tell you to go on a diet and tell you to exactly what to eat, and if I tell you exactly what to do and how to train, like this is much easier because people understand that language, right? So that's just another example from how disconnected people actually are, is because they don't understand what is actually normal and what is actually not normal but has been made normal, right? So as an intuitive eating coach, what I do is basically help people to get back to normal and help people to find that connection with their body again so that they can operate from a space of intuition.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you know, like maybe there are also people watching right now and they think like that is so common sense. That is why do people need actually help with that? And you know, like that's the same goes with movement. Like I know people and they're not personal trainer, not things like that, but they move every day and they do so much to to move that they don't need a personal trainer. But that doesn't mean that there are people that have more difficulties with that. You know, like it's amazing that you made that bridge and that you saw an opportunity to actually help people to tune into that. And it's at the same time, it's also a very unique situation in the world right now that you have so many people that are disconnected from their intuition because every other species than humans, and I saw this the other day, Eric shared this with me. Every other species has a diet, right? Every other species than human has a diet and they have a diet and they just have that diet and they don't have to think
Yeah.
about it. They just have that. And humans, what are humans? Like humans have discussions about what about what they should eat and what's good for you and how many calories and this and that and like we don't know it anymore. Like we get so like lost in that.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you because I tagged you the other day, and I do that sometimes with you when I see people like getting advice from a personal trainer to eat like less than 1,500 calories. Like this lady where I tagged you in was even like getting advice to eat like 1,000 calories a day
Yeah,
in a
like
15
1,200
hour.
calories.
Yeah, and I was like so so amazed by that in the wrong way. Like how can a personal trainer advise a fit lady, a moving lady to eat so little food? You know, that hurts me. And then I think like then I think of you, you know, with your like amazing recipes and you know your all kinds of pancakes and then I think Koen knows exactly what to say to them. You know, and
Yeah,
I
and I can
sometimes I
eat
can like type
1,200
in
calories
something
for
and I think like
breakfast sometimes.
and then I think like I can better tag Koen on the dish, and then Koen will have a conversation with him.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said as well, like it's like people can hardly imagine that that these things are actually not just common sense, right? But the facts are that for the far majority of people, these aren't common. That this isn't logic. This isn't common knowledge. So, and
Exactly.
the reason why, or not the reason why, but the way we see this is that like especially for females, the far majority of all females is a lifetime dieter, right? Like females on average do something like 70 plus diets in a lifetime. Uh,
70 plus diets
in a
for
lifetime. So
women.
that's basically like 2 diets or a diet a year for the rest of their life, right? So, and we see this in all of these things. Like how many people, like hey, you can put your hand up, you can put it down here in the chat if you feel like, has ever like skipped a meal because they were worried about eating too many calories. Like how many people have ever just drunk a glass of water because they were worried about like eating too many calories. Or
Yeah, you can raise
like
your hand or you can share it in the chat,
yeah,
right?
right.
That's what.
These are things that for many people are just like, oh yeah, but that's normal, right? Because I ate too much yesterday and then I just like compensate the next day. But
Yeah, yeah,
this is what I said earlier, these things aren't normal. We aren't supposed to like zigzag and go up and down with our calories every time and like jump into different kind of hoops to make sure that we are fitting in a certain body. And all of these kind of things we have made normal, but actually aren't really normal to begin with. So um, and you can scroll through my page and I have like a whole list of like examples of like how you can recognize like an unhealthy relationship with food. That's like a whole different topic, so I'm not going to go into that today. But it's really interesting to me to see like how many examples there actually are of our disconnect and all of those things that we have made normal, which yeah
hmm
shouldn't actually be normal to begin with.
exactly, exactly. I
So
want to like just an brief example is coffee,
yeah,
right? Like people drink now coffee like it's a must, and I noticed when I was working like 10 years ago already, in a call center, for example, I saw people like, "Oh, my cup of coffee, otherwise I cannot function," and I was always looking with a sense of wonder to them, like, how is this possible that you came to the conclusion that you, like as a whole being person, cannot function without a glass of black liquid. You know, like, how is it possible? Like, when did you come to this conclusion? I would ask them sometimes, you know, that you cannot function without it. And then they would look at me and would say, no, I just need it, you know. Like, I was like, okay, that's interesting. So you wanted to say something else. I just wanted, this example was really strong in me, so I thought like I'd share it. This is one of these conclusions.
I think that that's actually a really good example, because it just shows like how many things we actually do without questioning them. And I think that that is also a little bridge towards like, okay, so how to start reconnecting with your body again, and how to eventually tap into your intuition is by question your own narrative, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can always start with asking like yourself, like, are all the things that I'm doing on a normal day basis, like in terms of nutrition, and are they really the best, or am I just doing them because I've been brought up so to do them, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting question. And I see a question in the chat. Freya asks like, waarom maaltijd overslaan? Why would we skip a meal? Do you wanna go into that first?
No, I'm not sure if she meant it like really as a question, or more as like a comment, like, no, why would you actually skip a meal? I personally took it more like that. So let us know, Freya, if it is really a question or if it's more like a comment of like not understanding why people would do that, because I think personally it is the last. But let's talk a little bit more about like the road to connecting with your body again. What do you feel like, besides like asking yourself that question of, so what am I actually doing on a day-to-day basis? Asking yourself, like, am I not just basically a program of my own program? Or am I really in charge of what I actually do?
Yeah, exactly. That's great. Like you said that. And now, Body Paint Lily, what's up? I'm curious where you're from. Says intermittent fasting is a lifestyle. And that's actually a very good example, because most people have been brought up with the idea that 3 or even more meals a day is the best for you, right? Like you need like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And mostly even like a couple of rounds of snacks in between, you know, lemonade in between, and crisps, whatever, cookies. And intermittent fasting is not limiting any sense of calories, but just limiting your window of eating, right? And restricting that a bit. Actually, in my perspective, it's only to tap into your body's intelligence. When are you really eating because it's necessary? And when are you just eating because there's nothing else to do, or you're just like you learn, you know, like it's like a distraction of what's actually happening, because you're not hungry, but you're eating because it's morning, you know. And then intermittent fasting says, no, but let's take your morning, stretch it, do whatever the fruit you like, but only eat when you're really feeling like, hey, I should have some food right now, and then really sit and have food instead of like just rush it in, you know, like quick breakfast, I run to work. So
I like that you said that, Guido, because I think that's exactly why most intuitive eating coaches are not in favor of intermittent fasting. Because for the far majority of people, that's not how it is being implemented, or that's not how they do it. For the far majority of people, right? Intermittent fasting is just another food rule, basically, right? It's just another restriction or limitation that's telling you what to do, when to eat, and when you not eat, right? But
exactly.
how I experience it, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So how I experienced it, and actually intuitive eating or intermittent fasting helped me to become an intuitive eater, because I did exactly what you said. I actually started to listen like, hey, I'm now eating 5 times a day, and I'm still always thinking about food, and I'm still always hungry. I heard about intermittent fasting, and I thought like, hey, that's interesting. Let's try that out. And I suddenly became aware of, oh, I'm actually eating just out of boredom, or I'm eating out of suppressing emotions, or I'm eating out of a lot of reasons that didn't have to do with true hunger. And that's, I think,
you became aware of that.
Yeah. However, I do see that, like, in general, most people don't use it like that, right? It's just another tool to distract you, basically. For most people, it's just another tool to distract you from the connection with your body. Because what happens to a lot of people is that, oh, it's not 12 o'clock yet, or whatever the starting window is that they set to themselves that they would start with intuitive eating, right? Oh, it's not 12 o'clock yet. Oh, I cannot eat. But maybe they're super hungry. Or like, oh, it's 8 o'clock in the evening, my window is over, but actually still being hungry, and then not eating, and then the day after they feel like crap. Like, that to me completely defies the purpose of intermittent fasting, because then you're just shutting off your hunger and fullness signals, which is always causing more problems later. So I like little nuance, I think, just an insight towards intuitive eating, which also helps you to tap into your intuition again, because basically, like, your hunger and fullness signals and learning to recognize that, it's like a part of intuition, I actually would say.
It's like a play, right? I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and that's recently I really took this approach, like, more on that it becomes more like a game. And I really like this, because I see now Renee, by the way, is commenting. I started eating today at 4 and not hungry till then, because and then she said, what do you mean with what you said after? Urlo card. Renee, what did you exactly mean? Can you share that? But what I notice is, like, if you really see it like a game, and you're, for example, playing this game where you're only, like, feeding your character onto your intuition, on yourself, the best way to nourish your character, right? Your being, your whole, the life that is within you. What's the best way to nourish that?
Yeah, like, I would like, it really depends on where you come from, obviously, right? I like to use the example a little bit of, like, intermittent fasting, and I like nutrition in general, is that, like, the reason why a lot of people, and I was one of them for like a really long time, don't feel hungry or don't feel satisfied is because they have been, like, manipulating their hunger and fullness signals for so long, right? And that's, personally, I did intermittent fasting for like 4 years or so, and it really messed with my hunger and fullness signals as well. Like, I can easily go a day without eating without really feeling hungry. Like, on the one hand, that's okay, right? Because your body has reserves, and it's like you said, it's like, are you truly hungry? Because I don't think that in the Western society we really know what true hunger is. Like, that's also...
No, it's always what your grandmother said, no? Or what your parents said, like, are you really hungry now, or you just like to have some food?
Yeah. So, like for a lot of people, it's like, yeah, I'm not hungry. Yeah, basically because you have taught your body to not be hungry, because you have just pushed off eating for so long, right? That's what happens to a lot of people. Like, you skip meals or you overate. So a lot of people don't have like, their hunger and fullness signals. They aren't as strong as they should be, right? So a good start to start connecting with your body is actually to have multiple moments in the day to tune in with your body and actually ask yourself that, like, hey, like, what is actually happening right now? Like, am I actually hungry? Am I not? And also, after a meal, I like what you said, like, actually take the time to have that meal and to eat mindful, to say it like that. And after the end of the meal, like, actually ask yourself, like, hey, am I actually satisfied, right? Because a lot of people, they just mindlessly eat, and before they know, they look at their plate, everything is finished, and they haven't even enjoyed the road to get there, right? So for me, like, what I usually help people, like, in the process of intuitive eating, it always starts with just reconnecting again, like asking yourself those basic questions. Am I actually hungry? Am I actually satisfied after a meal? And just plan in more structure. If you have been like dieting your whole life, or like skipping meals or restricting yourselves for many years, like, one of the best ways to just get through that is to have some sense of structure again with your meals, because then you actually have an opportunity to ask yourself, like, hey, okay, it's now 9 o'clock in the morning and I'm supposed to have my meal according to my planning, but do I actually feel like it right now?
Yeah, I think that's an amazing example. Like that is the whole game. I see now again a nice comment like I eat when I'm hungry and try to be conscious when I'm eating out of other reasons. And I think that is for me like keystone is that distractions are making it way less possible for you to really enjoy food like to the fullest, and also for your body to really get the signals like, hey, this is nourished, where this is enough. And if you're like eating and watching something, and doing all kinds of things, then it doesn't really work. And I want to give her like an example because I was just in the States before Costa Rica. I've been to Florida, and I was there at a very interesting seminar. But before I went there, I drove up with a good friend of mine. I saw him also watching before this, and we were one morning, and it was actually funny because I was primed a little bit for breakfast. And you know me, Koen, I don't have breakfast like on a daily basis. Like today, for example, I'm still fasted, but that is not a must. It's just a feeling, a check-in. Do I want to eat breakfast? Yeah, no. It's a daily choice that I make consciously. And this day, the day before, I spoke with a guy that was like living there in that kind of hotel situation already for like weeks. And he sold his house and he said, yeah, I love it here. He said to me like, hey, it's great breakfast and it's amazing in this place. And that's what he said to me. So I was like, oh, there's amazing breakfast. I was like, is there fruits and stuff? And he was like, and it was close to Orlando, Florida. And he was like, yeah, fruits and this and that. So I was like a little bit primed to have breakfast the day after. So I did like early get up. I did my morning yoga, meditation, And then I went to the space where the breakfast was served. And then at that space, like two televisions were on, like with the news. And you saw like Joe Biden with like all kinds of nonsense. And then I was like already such a bummer, And then you see people looking to the television and just really like, this, without even paying attention to what they were eating. And I was like, wow, like this is really like a nightmare for me to come in the space where food is being treated like that. So I was like, how can people eat like this? So the first thing I asked was like to one of the people that worked there. I said, hey, can I ask a question? They came to me. I said, is it possible to turn the televisions off? And it was like, I asked like, can I put this water on fire? Because she looked at me like, television's off. Like, no, people want to watch the news in the morning. And I was like, do they really want that? Like, I doubt that if they really want that. And that was like such a big thing for me because then after that, I started walking around like, what did I have for breakfast? And all kinds of like deep fried stuff and sausages and deep fried eggs with salami. And I was like, what the fuck, is this food? It was like, for you, Gun, there would be nothing for you. Like, nothing. And then I thought like an apple, like, great, I get an apple. So here you get an apple, shiny as like a diamond and rolled in plastic. And I was like, this apple is rolled in a lot of plastic, like really like 3 layers of plastic around the apple. And then I open it and the apple was shining, like so shining that it looks like, how can an apple be so shining? And then the moment you eat it, it's soft inside. And you think like, wow, like they really found a way to mess up a fruit like this. Like, this is not my place, And then I started walking to my place, to the room where I was staying. And I was getting like peanut butter, and I had like organic peanut butter, and I had like a couple other things like that I bought, and I was all bringing it, and then I got a toast there, put it in the toaster, and I made my own like bread with peanut butter. And then like a protest, I turned my back to the TV and was like sitting like that, And I think like that is I'm such a weird guy in American terms, like that guy. And maybe they looked at me and I was like, this guy, he's not social at all. And I was like, but I was really following my own feelings in that,
But that, I think that's like the cool thing, right? Like it's like the blind leading the blind, right? Like in a world where where everything is normal, where everything crazy is normal, like actually being normal is considered crazy, right? And I think that also completely lines up with like trusting your own intuition. I think there's like too many people who don't dare to truly be themselves and to truly listen to themselves it's not even that they don't get these signals or they don't have these hunches or they don't have that feeling like, hey, like we said in the beginning, maybe there's more to it. It's way more so that people are so scared of the repercussions. They're too scared of oh, but what are other people going to think about that? Or what will happen if I actually start aligning my actions with what my true intentions are? And like for me, that's truly listening and tapping into your intuition. It's not just like listening to it and knowing it's there. Like I think a lot of people do that, but
Yeah, 100%.
what happens is like, are you actually being able to do something with that, right? Are you actually being able to live your life based on your own standards and not based on like what your parents have always taught you? Like the example that you gave, are you going to school? Are you going to find a job? Are you going to marry and buy a house? Like, and if you do, that's totally fine as well, right? Like if that's the path that you choose to do and you embrace it and you love that, sure, right? Like not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone needs to travel the world, right?
Exactly. No judgment at all. No judgment at all. So that is also great. I just see a question, and I think this one I can say something about it, but it's very interesting one. And you're the intuitive eating coach, and it's a food related question. So I want to give this one to you. Is every day eating vegan healthy? Do you not get shortage on vitamin B12? And normally, do you read that question?
Yeah, I saw it. I said that I would get back to that in a DM because
exactly. B12.
kind of derails from the topic, right?
Yeah. It's a little. Yeah. Let's say okay. Koen is gonna reply to people. Renee, I know Renee also personally. Koen is gonna get back to you in person.
If you have any like food related questions or health related questions, just shoot me a DM. I will definitely like to get back to you. But else we go all over the place with this live video, so maybe it'd be an extra topic.
Yeah, I thought it was a more intuitive question. Now, I just want to say one thing about it, because there is so less food really still whole. Like the most foods that we eat nowadays, especially when we buy from the supermarket, are derived from most nutrients. Like they're not nutritious at all anymore. They're literally, and I saw the statistics on that. I went to like multiple classes on like where they showed like how many nutrition was in a broccoli 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and now, and it really decreased like this, you know. And then if you look where and how people grow the most of the food that is laying in the supermarket nowadays, it's not even about like, are you vegan or not? Like, fuck all those labels. Just think, how is your food being produced? You know, like, let's think about it. Like, is your food just coming from a monocrop land where like acres and acres full are just the same plant? Pesticides are being sprayed to kill all the insects. What's actually going to be a big problem now with the diversity situation in the world. We have so much loss of biodiversity. So if you just think, how is this being produced? That's already giving you enough information if it's really going to be nutritious or not. And then, of course, later, all the nutrients, like the micronutrients, all the vitamins and minerals, they come all into play. But first, think, what is happening with the food that I'm eating, right? And most people don't even want to say that. And I was like, it worries me when parents say, no, but that's too complex of a topic to give my children that. Like, they cannot know how the food is being produced. I'm like, is that not like the first thing that they should know? Like, where does your food come from?
Yeah, I agree. And like that's again like something like attached to being disconnected is that like people don't question these kind of, like, in my opinion, like really basic things. Like what is one of the most important things as a human being that you want to know, right? It's like the things that go into your body, right? Like that to me is like one of the most fascinating things. Like I love to learn about that. But like for the most people, this is not something that we actually question, right?
No, exactly.
So like to make that last little bridge towards like tapping into your intuition, like questioning yourself of like what you're doing is actually helping you to get where you want to be, right? I feel that is also a big part of intuition, because a lot of times when we truly listen to ourselves and when we truly like just take a little step back and like pause for a second and not like continue to go in the rat race and like continue to be in the mind, but actually just listen to the heart and listen to the body for a second. Like a lot of the questions that we have, or a lot of the answers that we have or looking for, they will just show up, right? If you are if you would put a steak and an apple in a cage of a baby, what do you think the baby is going to eat? He's probably going to grab the apple, right? Because it just looks the most appealing. Like we are, we don't see colors for no reason, right?
Like, are you talking about the human baby? Right?
Yeah, human baby, yeah.
It was like like a bear. I don't know, maybe both.
A bear, but that's also his intuition, right? Like for the bear, he's like wired on that meat because he's a carnivore, so he would go for that. And I think a lot of things in
bear would eat both. Bear would eat both, but like that is a whole different story. Like, interesting that you say that. Like for in terms of nutrition, like there's so many focus nowadays on like what kind of macros do you get, how much like this kind of protein do you get, you know, how many, and then you have like the zoom in goes beyond like, do you get enough whey, do you get enough casein, do you get enough like all these things, but the focus is way less like how much are you enjoying your life right now. How much are you really in tune with the food that you eat? I really feel like every meal that you eat is like something to be grateful for and to think like, wow. And my parents, and I'm super grateful for that, learned me that from my young age on, that if we would eat, everybody had to be sitting on the table together. We would start with a moment of silence, no praying, no gods or something. If you want, of course, feel free, but like no it's not a necessity to be religious, to be just silent and grateful before your meal. And just think about all the world that are not having the luxury, actually, of choosing what they can eat, right?
Yeah.
Because we, as West, and we forget that. And we tend to take it for granted that we have the luxury to choose what can we eat today. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, that's already a big blessing, right? Like, how blessed is that? Is your life not blessed that you can choose if you're going to eat oats or bread or fruit? Or, you know, like that's just a big blessing, right? Like, I think that if you really take that in and be silent and think like, wow, thank you. Amazing.
Yeah.
That is already a big blessing. For me, at least. I noticed like my parents said that just like a moment of gratitude. They lived in Africa themselves, in Zimbabwe and Mauritania. And they said, look, we've been living in places where water is not that easy to access, where we had really to think about like, okay, what are we gonna get for this whole week, because the supermarket is not around the corner. And there, you know, like then you have a whole different perspective.
Yeah, man, so true. Like it's also interesting to give you some credits also. Like like I'm a big foodie, right? Like I love food, and the reason why is because for the majority of my life I hated food. Food was my escapism. Food was was very toxic to me. Food was like a way to comfort myself because I was a very poor eater and very bad eating habits. So when I finally learned to enjoy food, like now I can really say like I love food, right? Like I really love to enjoy food and to experiment with it. But there's very little people that I know that love food more than I do, or especially that can enjoy food as much as you do. So that's just a really interesting thing to me, that like someone can just enjoy food so much, as in just like the food itself, but also just the practice of eating, right? I think that that's such an interesting thing, and that's also such an interesting or like underrated concept in today's society, where food is just, how to say it, like food, like eating has become a commodity, right? Like we do just eat without thinking. While food is actually just, or the practice of eating is just such a, it's almost like a sacred practice, right? And I think if we can nurture that more, like we align ourselves so much more with just the present moment as well. And from there on, it's so much easier to actually listen to your body, because the reason why it's so difficult is because we're constantly distracted, we're constantly chasing, we're constantly rushing in our head. But when you just finally take that moment to slow down, to pause, to actually focus on what's in front of you, whether that's the food that you eat, the conversation that you have with someone, or the activity that you're participating in, like life is just becomes so much more magical. So to finish this conversation also with, like, I would love to ask you, Guido, if there's like anything that you would like to add to this to help people tap more into that intuition or to reconnect a little bit more also from your experience of like working with the body. And I think that that would be a really nice way of ending this conversation with today.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that, man. So, like, first of all, our body tends to be a little bit more in a sympathetic state. And what I mean with that is that we are used to run and do everything in a rush. And just 5 minutes, or sometimes even like 3 minutes of just breathing and taking a step back into all the things that you have to do according to this program that we all have in this life. And I won't say in the mind, because the program is actually a mental program. And just checking in with yourself and feeling like, hey, all the things that I have to do according to this program is just this program, what I normally play. And if I can take a step back and take a deep breath and notice what is actually happening beyond that. What's actually happening beyond? I was almost catching a fly. So that's a new practice. So what is actually happening beyond that program? And then you can look without judgment, without like needing to change anything, but just look and observe. And we can call it meditation, we can call it breath work, we can call all kinds of things. You can also just looking at your own program, because that is a very interesting process. Like, everybody has a different program and everybody can learn from their own programs, but we need to look, and that is something. And I noticed that like this example came to me also to give some, you gave me credits, to give some credits to my family. It was a little bit over 1.5 years ago. I did like a fasting and silence weekend all by myself, no talking with anyone, no smartphone contact, apping, whatever, Facebooking, no, and not eating for like 48 hours. I wanted to do at least, and just checking in, like how can I survive, and not that I would recommend other people to directly take it that difficult, but more like if we become aware, and that was really for me, like if I become aware about how many things are built around food in my life and about like having conversations with people, then, and I can still be present with that and just stay aware of what is happening, but not eat and not have those conversations. And I get in touch with a deeper layer inside of myself. And so I started this on Saturday, and I ate my last piece of watermelon on like 12 o'clock or something. And then I didn't eat all the way till Monday late afternoon. And I remember I traveled to Amsterdam and I was with my grandmother. And then my grandmother and I bought all kinds of different foods, like nuts and fruits. And then, we were making wraps, and she was like, "Don't eat so fast, Guido." And I was like ready to eat. And she was like, "Easy." Like always like she was, "Easy, take a step back." And I was still eating quite fast, but for my perspective, not so. But like still, it was interesting to feel every taste was stronger. I felt so light that day, like so light. Like, of course, I hadn't eating, so my whole body, all the cells that are normally busy with processing food, can turn inwards and process things. Like, there's a lot of things that your cells can do when you stay in this state, but you really have to do it conscious, and you don't have to overdo it. That's why it's recommended. I don't recommend like to start on a long fast, but just to wait 10 to 15 minutes longer with a meal than you would normally do, and not distract yourself in those 10 to 15 minutes. That's again going back to the topic of tuning in and observing the programs, what is happening there. And it's super, super important, like, process, not for me, not for you, but for everyone, to check in with those programs that, are so craving all these conditioning that we have.
Yeah. I really love that. I think that that's a really good takeaway from this conversation is just to tune in, right? To pause for a second, to listen, basically even better to say like to observe what is actually going on and to observe what's going on in the mind, to watch what's happening in your body and not always to react instantly to everything that is going on or all the impulses that we have, but just to learn how to slow down a little bit and like move through life more from the like observer kind of space. I think that that is a really effective way of reconnecting with the body, eventually reconnecting with the self, and really to tap into your intuition as well.
Exactly, exactly. So keep
Guido.
checking and yeah, keep asking those questions like, what is really happening
Yeah. Guido, thank you
inside?
so much, man. From Costa Rica, all the
Yes.
way from the beautiful jungle over there. Man, that's breathtaking.
Yeah, thank
Guido,
you,
thank you
man.
so
Thanks
much,
for
man.
making this possible.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your insights, the connection, and the energy. I really appreciated it. A lot of you have stayed with us almost until the end, a full hour. So thank you a lot for
Yeah,
that. If
yeah,
like
respect.
based on this conversation, you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to either one of us, Hiro at Hiro Sutamon. You can find him, send him a DM. Me, if you want to dive a little bit more into intuition and like intuitive eating, always happy to have a conversation with you. So yeah, really appreciate it, everyone, for staying along, and hope you have an amazing rest of your day as well.
Oh, brother, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
See each other.
Great day.
Salute.